The day started like any other, but I had no idea my life was about to flip completely. I was finishing up at the little cafe I worked at, wiping down tables when my phone buzzed. His name flashed on the screen. Michael. My heart skipped. "I'm outside," he said when I answered, voice smooth and calm. I stepped out and there he was, dressed in a crisp suit that made him look untouchable, confident, almost unreal. "I've been waiting," I whispered, feeling my cheeks flush. "You look beautiful," he said, his eyes catching mine in a way that made the world shrink to just the two of us. He handed me a small box. My fingers trembled. I opened it. A ring. Simple, elegant, yet sparkling with impossible brilliance. My breath caught. "Is this?" He knelt down on one knee. "I know we come from different worlds. You're humble, hardworking, honest, and I love every piece of you. Will you marry me?" My hand shook. "Yes. Yes, Michael." I threw myself into his arms, feeling his warmth, the thrill of being chosen, adored, and seen. Friends and family called immediately afterward. "Are you sure about him?" my best friend asked. "He's different. Rich, powerful. You barely know what his world is." "I love him," I said firmly. "Love isn't about money or status." But even as I spoke, a tiny whisper of doubt nagged at me. He had mentioned in passing once that he wanted to see if I could handle unexpected challenges. At the time I laughed it off. Surely it was just playful teasing. That night we celebrated quietly at his penthouse. He poured champagne and I watched him with awe. Guests murmured around us, envious, whispering about how perfect we looked together. But I felt a pang. Everyone adored him and no one could see me for who I truly was, a girl from a small town who barely fit into his glittering life. "Do you ever worry we're different?" I asked him softly. He smiled, brushing my hair back. "I think love can cross any line. You and I? We're stronger than labels, stronger than money, stronger than opinions." I wanted to believe him completely. And I did until I noticed it, the faint flicker in his eyes whenever someone mentioned wealth or status or social connections. It was subtle, almost invisible. He smiled, but it didn't reach those eyes. "You're quiet," he said, tilting my chin up. "Thinking about something?" "Just wondering if I'm enough," I admitted. "Enough?" He laughed, low and confident. "You're more than enough. You're the only one who matters." Still, the small seed of doubt lingered. I shook it off, thinking maybe I was imagining things. After all, we were engaged. The proposal had been perfect. Everything was perfect. But perfection can hide cracks. Over the next few days, his behavior was charming, attentive, almost too flawless. He remembered every small thing I liked, anticipated my moods, and planned surprises that left me dizzy with happiness. Yet, sometimes he'd ask about my spending habits in a way that felt testing. "Could you handle an unexpected financial problem?" he'd ask casually over coffee. I smiled nervously, dismissing it as curiosity. One evening, while we were walking in the park, he suddenly stopped. "Imagine losing everything tomorrow. How would you react?" I frowned. "Losing everything?" He shrugged, casual as if discussing the weather. "Just thinking aloud." I nodded, but my stomach twisted. Was it really just thinking aloud? Or was this a test? My mind raced, but I forced a smile. "I'd manage. I'd find a way." He studied me, eyes sharp. "Good answer." I laughed nervously, hoping he wouldn't read too much into my tension. I wanted to believe in his love, the same way I believed in the dream we were building together. That night, I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, my fingers brushing the ring on my hand. It sparkled under the lamplight, a symbol of everything I hoped for: love, security, a future. And yet, I couldn't shake the feeling that something beneath the surface was waiting to be revealed. The next day, he took me to his family's estate. Lavish, sprawling, a world I barely recognized. I met his parents, all charm and curiosity, eyes scanning me like I was part exhibit, part puzzle. His mother smiled warmly but with a faint hint of caution. "You're brave, taking on our world." I swallowed, trying to appear confident. "I just want to love Michael." He squeezed my hand under the table, reassuring me. "And that's all that matters." Even as I felt reassured, I caught a flicker between his father and brother, a look that made my heart tighten. Was it excitement? Suspicion? I couldn't tell. But I reminded myself, love would conquer everything. We returned home, laughter echoing through the apartment. I wanted to believe in the bliss of our engagement, the warmth of our love. I wanted to ignore the little hints, the flickers of testing, the questions about how I'd handle hardship. Because right then all that mattered was the ring, his smile, and the feeling that for once I was truly seen. And yet, Deep inside, I couldn't shake the tiny, persistent thought. What if this happiness was just a test I didn't know I was taking? The morning sunlight spilled across my kitchen and I sipped my coffee thinking about Michael. I should have been floating in post-proposal bliss, but a small knot of unease had settled in my stomach. He called just as I was leaving for work. "Good morning," he said. His voice sounded cheerful, but there was a sharpness underneath. "Morning," I replied. "Did you sleep well?" "Like a baby." He hesitated. "Listen, I need to ask you something." My heart skipped. "Okay. It's about the wedding plans. What would you do if, hypothetically, we had to cut the budget dramatically?" I blinked. "Cut the budget?" "I guess I'd adjust. Maybe pick simpler options." He chuckled softly. "I just want to know you're practical." I nodded, but unease tightened. The way he phrased it, hypothetically, made me wonder if this was really hypothetical. Was he testing me already? That afternoon I met my friend Laura at the cafe. She frowned as soon as I mentioned Michael. "You seem off. What's wrong?" "I don't know," I admitted. "Sometimes he says things that make me question something." "Like what?" "Well," I began carefully, "he asked me about cutting costs, managing budgets." It felt odd. Like he's testing me. Lara's eyes widened. "Testing? Chasing a perfect answer? Or are you imagining things?" "I hope I'm imagining," I said, tracing my ring nervously. It sparkled, reminding me of our perfect engagement day. But even that glimmer seemed to carry weight now, a tiny symbol of doubt. A few days later, Michael invited me to a small dinner at his apartment. "Just us," he said, smiling. But when we arrived, the place looked modest. Not the penthouse I had imagined. "You redecorated?" I asked, noting the plain furniture. He waved me off. "I sold some things. Trying to simplify life before marriage." I frowned. Something didn't fit. This wasn't what I remembered. Still, I shrugged it off. Maybe it was his way of grounding himself. During dinner, I noticed a pattern. He avoided talking about work finances, dodged questions about investments, and even deflected when I asked about the future. "Michael, don't you want to think about a house? Or anything?" He laughed lightly. "A house? Maybe later. I'm focusing on us now." I forced a smile, but a small voice inside whispered, "Why now? Why avoid the topic?" The next day, I met some of his friends at a casual gathering. They were kind, but as we talked, I noticed whispers when his name came up. "He's made some impressive deals recently," one said. Another laughed. "Yeah, he bought that property downtown." I froze. Property downtown? Impressive deals? That didn't sound like the struggling financially man Michael described himself as. When I mentioned it to him later, he waved it off. "Just rumors. People exaggerate." I wanted to believe him. I really did. "Of course," I said, but my stomach churned. A week later, we took a walk in the park. The trees swayed gently, but my thoughts were anything but peaceful. "You've been quiet," Michael said. "Something on your mind?" I don't know," I admitted. "I just wonder sometimes why you avoid certain topics. Money, work, the future." He stopped walking and looked at me, eyes steady. "I'm not hiding from you. I just like keeping some things private." "But why all the hints?" I asked. "The questions about budgets, the simplifications, the avoiding? I feel like I'm being tested." He reached for my hand. "Maybe you are. But not in the way you think. I just want to know you're real. That you love me for me." I wanted to nod, to trust him completely. And I tried. But the whispers of doubt clung stubbornly. Later that evening, I sat alone in my apartment, staring at the ring. It felt heavier now, as if the sparkle held secrets. I remembered Lara's words, "Are you imagining things?" I wasn't sure. I wanted to dismiss the discomfort, to dive into love fully. But every time I tried, a tiny unease pricked at me. Conversations, hints from friends, his vague explanations, all felt like pieces of a puzzle I couldn't yet see. The days that followed were filled with small inconsistencies. He said he couldn't go out one evening because of work, but a mutual friend mentioned seeing him at a luxury restaurant. Another time, he claimed to have sold a car to simplify life, but someone posted a photo online of him arriving in a brand new sports car. "Michael," I asked one night, trying to keep my voice calm, how are you affording all these things if you're so careful with money?" He laughed, brushing it off with charm. "I manage. Nothing to worry about." But worry gnawed at me anyway. It wasn't about the money. It was the secrecy, the little evasions, the way he measured my responses to subtle questions. The more I noticed, the more the seed of doubt grew, twisting quietly in my chest. That night I lay in bed staring at the ceiling. I remembered the first night he proposed, the sparkle of the ring, the thrill of his arms around me. Could I still trust that man? Could I still believe in the perfect future we had planned? My phone buzzed. It was Michael. "Thinking about you," he wrote. I stared at the message, heart aching. I wanted to text back, to dive into his warmth, to believe in us. But a small voice whispered, "Be careful. Something isn't right." I put the phone down and traced the ring on my finger. The same ring that had symbolized love, now felt heavier, a warning I couldn't yet understand. The next morning, Michael asked me to accompany him to an art exhibit. "It's a surprise," he said, smiling. At the gallery, I noticed the prices on the art far beyond anything I could imagine. "Michael, these are expensive," I said softly. "Not really," he replied, his smile easy. "It's just a small collection I like." I laughed nervously, but my eyes followed his every move, watching him. Something in his casual gestures didn't match the stories he told me about money. Later, as we walked through the exhibit, I overheard two women whispering near a sculpture. "He's loaded. Always has been," one said. My chest tightened. Loaded? Always has been? I wanted to confront him, to demand the truth. But I didn't. I wanted to trust him. I wanted to be loyal, to love fully, to believe that he loved me for me. Still, as we left the gallery hand in hand, I couldn't shake the growing tension. The perfect life we had planned felt fragile now, like it could shatter with a single truth. Back home he kissed me softly. "You're quiet," he said. "I'm fine," I lied. But inside, doubt was simmering, a slow-burning question that refused to die. Is the man I love truly who he says he is, or is there a hidden truth waiting to be revealed? That night, I stared at the ring one last time before sleep claimed me. Its sparkle seemed different now, not just a symbol of love, but a mirror of questions I didn't yet know how to answer. And somewhere deep down, I felt the first tremors of betrayal stirring, waiting to sweep through my world. I never thought a single afternoon could change everything. I walked into Michael's apartment that day expecting our usual quiet dinner, laughter, and whispered plans for the wedding. Instead, I found something I wasn't ready for. "Michael," I called, stepping inside. The place gleamed with luxury, far more than the modest simplifications he'd claimed. New furniture, polished floors, art I recognized from private auctions. My chest tightened. He turned, smiling. "Hey, you're early." I froze. This isn't the apartment you've been showing me." He chuckled, nervously, brushing his hands over a crystal vase. "What do you mean?" I felt a tremor in my voice. The one you said you sold things, simplified, lived modestly in, it wasn't real?" He sighed, avoiding my eyes. I didn't mean to lie." "You didn't mean to lie?" I repeated, my voice cracking. "You've been pretending to be broke this whole time?" He ran a hand through his hair, exasperated. "I wanted to see if you really loved me. Not my money, not my lifestyle, not my status." I laughed bitterly. "Loved you? Or loved the idea of a test you designed to humiliate me? Please listen." His tone softened, but it sounded rehearsed. "I know it looks bad. But I never questioned your heart. I only needed to be sure you were real, that you'd stay with me for me." I felt my stomach twist. "So every hint, every question, every small budget problem you tested me with, it was all part of your little game?" "Yes," he admitted, his eyes finally meeting mine. "I'm sorry." The words, "I'm sorry," bounced hollowly in the room. Sorry didn't cover deceit, manipulation, or the humiliation I felt. I stepped back. "Do you know how that makes me feel? Betrayed? Used? Mocked?" He reached for me, but I shook my head. Don't touch me. I thought I was protecting us. I thought I could see your true self before we committed." "Committed? You were testing me? While I trusted you. While I believed in us." My voice broke. Tears rolled down my cheeks. "How could you?" He swallowed, guilt clear in his expression. I wanted to protect you from everything. From the pressure, from the wealth, from the people. I thought if you could handle me as a broke man, you'd be strong enough for the rest." I laughed, a short, sharp sound. "Protect me? By lying, manipulating, humiliating me? That's your idea of protection?" "I know it sounds awful." "Awful," I whispered, shaking my head. "It's betrayal. Pure betrayal. And the worst part is that I believed you." Silence filled the room, heavy and suffocating. I wanted to scream, to shake him, to make him feel the heartbreak he had caused. But I was too stunned, too broken. Then my phone buzzed. Messages from friends and family poured in. "Are you okay? What happened?" I can't believe he. I felt my cheeks burn. Not just with sorrow but humiliation. People I trusted knew and I hadn't even spoken yet. I can explain, Michael said softly now. I never meant to hurt you. I swear it. I turned to him, voice low, trembling. Explain? You spent months lying to me. Playing a game with my heart. And now you expect me to just understand? I hoped you'd see why I did it, he said, eyes pleading. I shook my head. No, I can't see why. There's no reason that justifies this. I feel like I don't even know you. He stepped closer, desperate. You do. You know me better than anyone. That hasn't changed. Changed? Everything has changed. I shouted, throwing my hands up. The person I loved, the trust one had, it's gone. Do you understand? I do, he said quietly. And I'll do whatever it takes to fix it. I laughed again, bitter and hollow. Fix it? You can't fix trust once it's shattered. You can't take back the months of manipulation, the whispers of doubt, the questions I didn't know how to answer. I'll prove it. Oh. No. I cut him off. You won't prove anything. Not yet. Not to me. I need space. I need to breathe without feeling like I'm being tested every second. He hesitated, his hand frozen midair. Space. Yes, space, I said, voice shaking. I don't even know if I can forgive you. Not now. Not this soon. I grabbed my coat and left. The corridor echoed my hurried steps. The lobby, the elevator, the streets. I wanted distance from the man I loved and could no longer recognize. Outside, the city was alive, indifferent to my turmoil. I called Laura. I can't believe it, I said, voice muffled. Oh, honey, she whispered. I had a feeling something was off. He's always seemed too perfect, too controlled. But this. I feel humiliated, I admitted, tears spilling freely. Used. Like I was just a subject in his experiment. You weren't a subject, she said softly. You were a person he should have trusted, not tested. I know, I said, voice breaking. But it doesn't feel like it. I feel small. Invisible. Stupid for believing in him so completely. You're not stupid, Laura said firmly. You loved with your whole heart. That's strength, not weakness. I hung up, sitting on a bench in the park, staring at the ring. It glimmered in the sunlight, once a symbol of joy, now a reminder of betrayal. I traced its edges with trembling fingers, trying to hold onto the fragments of trust it once represented. Night fell and I returned home, not to Michael but to myself. I locked the door, leaned against it, and cried until my chest ached. The betrayal was deep, a knife twisting slowly, leaving me raw and unguarded. I couldn't sleep. I replayed every conversation, every smile, every casual remark about money. All of it was tainted now, filtered through the lens of manipulation. I felt alone, adrift in a sea of heartbreak. The next morning I barely moved. Coffee grew cold in its cup. Messages from Michael went unanswered. He left a note slipped under the door. I never wanted to hurt you. Please talk to me. I stared at it, fingers brushing the paper, trembling. The words were meaningless. Apologies couldn't erase the months of deceit, the tiny cracks that had grown into a chasm between us. I called my mother. Mom, I think he's been lying. Lying? She asked, concern heavy in her voice. Yes. About everything. About money. About us. Her sigh was heavy. I always feared this. He's clever, he hides things well. But honey, remember, betrayal isn't about you. It's about him. I clutched the phone, voice cracking. I feel like everything I believed in is gone. I feel small. You're not small, she said firmly. You're strong. But you need to protect yourself now. Step back, breathe. Don't make any decisions yet. Just survive this. And that's exactly what I did. I retreated from friends, family, Michael. I isolated myself in my apartment, curled on the couch with the ring in my hand, staring at it as if it held answers I couldn't reach. I questioned everything: love, loyalty, trust. Every dream, every hope, every whispered plan for a future together now felt fragile, unreal. I couldn't escape the humiliation, the gnawing sense that I had been manipulated by the person I loved most. The ring glimmered in the dark, a cold reminder of trust broken. And as I sat there, I realized something I hadn't before. Love isn't always enough. Sometimes it's tested, stretched, and shattered. And sometimes, surviving the betrayal is the first step toward finding yourself. I didn't know what I would do next. Forgive? Fight? I only knew that the Michael I thought I loved was gone, replaced by a man who had lied to me, manipulated me, and made me question everything I ever believed about us. I wrapped the ring in a cloth and placed it in a drawer. It was no longer a symbol of love. It was a symbol of lessons learned, of trust broken, of my heart on fire with confusion and sorrow. And somewhere deep inside, a silent vow formed: I would not let this define me. But right now, I had to survive the collapse. I didn't answer the phone. I didn't respond to messages. I barely spoke to anyone. The world continued around me, bright and loud, while I felt like I was drowning in shadows. I sat on the edge of my bed, staring at the engagement ring hidden in the drawer. It gleamed faintly in the dim light, a constant reminder of what I had lost, what I had believed in, only to have it ripped away. Laura called. Again. I let it ring. She'll understand later, I muttered to myself. She'll leave me be. I remembered the first night we celebrated the proposal. Michael's smile, the warmth of his hand holding mine, the soft voice whispering promises of forever. Those memories were jagged now, like shattered glass pressing against my chest. My phone buzzed. A message from Michael: please talk to me. I need you. I stared at it, heart racing, tears welling. My fingers hovered over the screen and I typed a response, then deleted it. I couldn't. Not yet. Not when my trust had been shattered. I wrapped myself in a blanket and sank onto the couch. Shadows danced on the walls, echoing the storm in my mind. I thought of every whispered budget question, every casual lie about money, every carefully calculated test. It wasn't love. It was manipulation. Why? I whispered into the empty room. Why me? Why my heart? The apartment was silent. My reflection in the window stared back, eyes swollen and red. I barely recognized myself. The girl who laughed easily, who loved without fear, who believed in forever, she felt gone. I sank to the floor. The ring in my hand felt cold, heavy. I pressed it against my chest, trying to remember why I had loved him. The love was there, tangled with anger, confusion, and pain. It made my chest ache. A knock at the door startled me. I didn't answer. A soft voice called, "It's Lara. Let me in." I stayed silent. "Please, I know you're hurting," she said. "I just want to sit with you. You don't have to talk." After a moment, I moved aside, letting her in. She sat on the floor next to me, close but not crowding. Silence stretched between us, comforting in its own way. Finally she spoke. "Do you hate him?" I laughed bitterly. "Hey? I don't know. I loved him. I still care, I guess. But I feel used, manipulated. I feel like I don't even know who he is." "You don't," Lara said gently. "Not the man you thought you knew. And that's okay. You loved with your whole heart. That's not something to regret." "I feel weak," I admitted, voice small. How could I not see it? How could I let myself be tested like that? "You're not weak," she said firmly. "You're human. You trusted. You gave love freely. That's strength, not weakness." I looked at her, searching for comfort, for guidance. "But what if I can't forgive him?" "Then don't," she replied. "Forgiveness doesn't have to come now. It can wait, or maybe it won't come at all. Right now, focus on you. You'll survive." Her words sank in. I realized she was right. I didn't need to make a decision about him yet. I didn't even need to think about him. I needed to breathe, to exist outside the shadow he had cast over me. The hours passed in silence. I let myself cry, let myself ache, let myself feel the full weight of betrayal. Every memory of our time together twisted in my mind, mixing love with anger. "I trusted him," I whispered to the empty room. And he lied. Every word, every smile, all of it a test. I pressed the ring to my lips. This was supposed to be a symbol of love. Now it's a reminder of deceit. Lara squeezed my hand. "Symbols only have the power we give them. You can choose to see it differently someday. But not today. Today it's your pain, your heartbreak. Let yourself feel it." I nodded, tears flowing freely. For the first time, I let myself surrender to the storm inside me. The anger, the hurt, the humiliation, they all swirled together, consuming me. And yet, in the depths of that storm, a small spark appeared. A thought, quiet but persistent: I will not let this betrayal define me. I held on to it like a lifeline. It was fragile, tiny, but it existed. For the first time since the truth came out, I felt a flicker of control. Maybe I couldn't trust him right now. Maybe I couldn't even forgive. But I could claim myself. I could decide who I was in the aftermath of betrayal. The night deepened. I sat on the floor, curled around the ring, and stared at the shadows. Memories of laughter, whispered promises, tender touches, They still existed, but they no longer held power over me. I whispered a vow into the darkness. I will survive this. I will not let him or anyone take my heart and crush it completely. I will rise from this storm, stronger than before. Somewhere outside, the city lights flickered. Cars passed, people laughed, lives moved forward. And so would I, eventually. But not tonight. Tonight I let myself break. Tonight I let the storm rage. By morning I had decided. I wouldn't run to him. I wouldn't confront him. I wouldn't cry for attention or explanations. I would retreat, gather my strength, and plan my next steps quietly. I looked at the ring one last time. Its sparkle had lost its magic. I slipped it into a box and tucked it away, out of sight but not out of mind. It was still a part of me, a part of the storm I had endured, but it no longer had the power to control me. I opened my laptop and started writing. Not letters to him. Not messages to friends. Just words raw and untamed. I poured my confusion, my anger, my heartbreak onto the screen. Each sentence was a small act of reclamation. Each paragraph reminded me that I still had a voice. I still had control. Lara visited later, bringing coffee and sandwiches. We didn't talk much. We didn't need to. Her presence was enough. Comforting, steady, reminding me that I wasn't completely alone. Even so, the storm inside me didn't calm entirely. It raged, sometimes quiet, sometimes fierce, but I felt myself learning to navigate it. I realized heartbreak wasn't just pain, it was a lesson, a test of resilience. And though I had been tested and failed in the way I had hoped, I could still pass the next one. Surviving, growing, reclaiming myself. By the end of the day, I had made a decision. Not about him, not about forgiveness. Just a decision about me. I would not let this betrayal define me. I would not let it dictate my worth, my actions, my future. I would rise from the wreckage, even if it took time, even if it took every ounce of strength I had left. The storm hadn't passed. It wouldn't for a while. But I had found a small island in it, myself. And I would cling to it. I spent the next morning staring at the ring again, though I didn't touch it. Its sparkle felt distant now, almost mocking. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. For the first time in days, I just thought. Thought about betrayal, manipulation, and the fact that my life couldn't revolve around his games anymore. I can't keep living like this, I whispered to myself. I have to change. I didn't know how yet, but I knew the first step, action. Not tears. Not waiting. Action. I reached out to Lara first. I need your help, I said, voice steady but quiet. You're already stronger than you think, she replied, determination in her eyes. But yes, let's plan. What do you want? I don't know exactly. I just know I can't let him, or anyone, control my life like this, I admitted. Lara smiled faintly. Then we start small. Skills, confidence, independence. Build yourself quietly. Let them underestimate you while you grow. I nodded, feeling a spark. The storm inside me hadn't passed, but now it had a direction. The next few days became a rhythm of secret meetings and quiet research. I contacted Mrs. Khalid, a former mentor of mine who had helped me in college. You sound different, she said when I called. Stronger but careful. What's happened? I hesitated, then explained in measured words. Not every detail, just the betrayal, the heartbreak, the fact that I needed guidance. Good, she said, voice firm. Pain is a teacher. Use it. You can't undo what's happened, but you can make sure it shapes you, not breaks you. I felt something I hadn't in weeks. Control. A small sense of power, like the storm was finally bending to my will, instead of drowning me. I'll help you, Mrs. Khalid continued. We'll focus on strategy, confidence, and influence. Quietly, without anyone noticing. And by the time they do, you'll be unrecognizable, stronger, smarter, untouchable. I grinned faintly. Untouchable. I like that. You'll also need allies, she said. People you can trust, who won't betray you. I thought of Lara. I have her. That's a start. Start there, Mrs. Khalid said. But remember, your strength is your own. Don't rely too heavily on others. You'll rise on your own power. Over the next few weeks, I immersed myself in work and learning. I enrolled in short courses on finance, social strategy, and communication. I attended workshops in leadership, presentation, and negotiation. Each session left me buzzing, a heady mix of exhaustion and exhilaration. I couldn't talk about it with Michael. I had no intention of showing him this side of me yet. I would be quiet, invisible, patient. The power of my transformation would be in its subtlety. One evening, Lara sat across from me in the cafe, watching me take notes furiously. You're different, she said. More focused, more Dangerous. Dangerous. I repeated, smiling faintly. Yes, she said. Not the kind that hurts others. The kind that makes people underestimate you, until they realize they're the ones at a disadvantage. I leaned back, letting her words sink in. I don't want revenge. Not yet. I want control. I want him to see me and know I'm not the same person he lied to. Good, she said, sipping her coffee. Then keep quiet. Let the change happen without him noticing. Karma has a way of showing up at the right time. Karma. The word rang in my mind like a bell. I wasn't actively planning revenge. I was planning growth. But I knew that when the time came, consequences would follow naturally. Later that week, I met another mentor, Mr. Anwar, an older gentleman with sharp eyes and a gentle voice. Why are you here? He asked after I explained my situation briefly. To learn, I said simply. To rise above. To make sure no one ever manipulates me again. He nodded. Good. That's the first step. But remember, strength isn't just in knowledge. It's in action, patience, and knowing when to speak and when to remain silent. I understand, I said, determined. I want to be the kind of person who moves quietly but with impact. You'll need discipline, he said. And humility. The people who think you're broken or small will never see you coming. And when they do, it will be too late. I smiled faintly, feeling a thrill. That's exactly what I want. Days turned into weeks. I worked on myself quietly, strengthening skills, building networks, and quietly observing my world. Michael's texts and calls became background noise, ignored. I didn't respond. I let him think I was still fragile, broken, heart-shattered. But inside I was growing. Each workshop, each conversation, each small accomplishment added layers to my new self. I was becoming deliberate, strategic, and untouchable. One evening, Lara met me at a park bench, a symbolic place from our early friendship days. You've changed, she said softly. Not just on the outside. I can feel it. Confidence, calm, power. They'll notice soon enough. They will, I said quietly. But not yet. Not until I'm ready. Until I know exactly who I am. And Michael? She asked. I paused, staring at the ring box tucked away in my drawer. He's a lesson, I said finally. Not a focus. Not yet. He'll see me later when I'm complete. And by then, things will be different. Lara smiled faintly. Good. Keep it quiet. Keep building. You're doing exactly what you need to do. I walked home that night, cool air brushing my face, thinking about every moment of betrayal, every small sting of humiliation. And instead of letting it crush me, I let it fuel me. I remembered what Mrs. Collett said. Your actions, not tears, define your strength. I repeated it to myself like a mantra. Actions, not tears. Strength, not heartbreak. Independence, not manipulation. By the time I reached my apartment, I felt a quiet determination settling in my chest. I wasn't just surviving the storm. I was preparing to thrive after it. I opened my laptop, jotting down goals, skills to master, connections to nurture. Every line, every plan, was a brick in the foundation of a new me. I wasn't angry, not yet. But I was aware. I was deliberate. Michael could continue believing I was fragile, naive, heartbroken. That was his mistake. His underestimation would be the key to my eventual rise. The weeks went by, each day building on the last. I networked discreetly, learning, practicing, observing. Friends and mentors guided me, but I kept the core work of transformation private. Each skill, each small victory felt like reclamation, not of him but of myself. One afternoon, Lara and I had coffee again. You're almost ready, she said quietly. Soon people will notice the change. Not just him, everyone. And by then, the power will be yours. I nodded, feeling a surge of quiet triumph. The storm wasn't over. My emotions were still raw, the betrayal still a scar. But the plan had begun. I looked down at my hands, fingers brushing the ring tucked away in the drawer. It no longer represented love or heartbreak. It represented a catalyst, a reminder that even from betrayal, strength could grow. And somewhere deep inside, I smiled faintly. Karma would follow, naturally, silently. And when it did, it wouldn't be from my hand. It would be the result of the truth, of my growth, of the careful power I was building. For now, I acted in silence. The world would see the change soon enough. And when it did, nothing would ever be the same. I walked into my office that morning with a sense of purpose I hadn't felt in months. The sunlight spilled across the desk, but I barely noticed it. I had bigger things to focus on: me, my growth, my independence. Good morning, my assistant Rania greeted. She smiled, unaware of the storm I'd endured, of the quiet fire that now burned within me. "Morning," I replied, setting my bag down and opening my laptop. I had a full day planned: financial workshops, strategy calls, and personal skill sessions. Every hour, every minute was deliberate. Every action was mine. I had to remind myself not to think of him. Michael's name lingered like a shadow, but I forced it down, buried it. He didn't deserve my attention. Not yet. Not until I was ready. My phone buzzed. A message from him. "Are you okay?" I smiled faintly and ignored it. I let the unread status linger. He needed to believe I was still fragile, still compliant, still the woman he thought he controlled. That illusion would serve me well. Later, during a video call with Mrs. Collett, she checked on my progress. "You're keeping a low profile," she observed. "Smart. They underestimate you while you grow. That's your power." "I know," I said, taking notes. "I'm careful. Every move is deliberate." "Good. Don't reveal your intelligence too soon. Let them see only what you want them to see. People like Michael, he thrives on underestimating. Use it." I nodded. It felt almost like a game, and for the first time, I enjoyed it. Weeks passed. I focused on my career relentlessly. I negotiated contracts, pitched projects, and attended networking events. Every success I kept hidden from Michael, every small victory a secret layer of strength building silently beneath his radar. He tried in small ways to keep tabs. A casual text, a social media comment, a fleeting coffee invitation. Each time I responded with soft smiles, appearing fragile, compliant, almost as if the betrayal had broken me completely. He didn't know that while he assumed I was vulnerable, I was becoming formidable. Every financial decision I made, every new skill I mastered, every mentor's advice I absorbed quietly reinforced my independence. One evening, Laura met me at a quiet cafe. "You're different," she said, observing me as I reviewed spreadsheets on my tablet. Confident, composed, even calm under pressure. Michael would never guess the storm behind those eyes. I looked up, smiling faintly. That's the point. He needs to think I'm still fragile. That he still has control. "Control?" she echoed. "Yes," I said quietly. "I don't want revenge. I want him to see me later and realize he misjudged me completely. But for now." I moved quietly. She nodded, understanding. "Good. Silent empowerment is stronger than confrontation. Let him stumble while you rise." And stumble he did. I learned, almost by accident, that Michael's business ventures began to falter slightly. A small deal went south, a property investment underperformed. Nothing catastrophic, but enough to see the pattern of overconfidence and underestimation starting to affect him. I didn't celebrate. I observed. Karma, it seemed, had begun quietly. During lunch with a colleague, she remarked, "You're handling your career so well. I'm impressed." I smiled, carefully neutral. Just focused on growth. Focused. Growth. Words that meant more than she realized. Not just my career, but my strategy, my resilience, my silent rise. At home that evening, I organized my notes from mentors, reviewing financial strategies, negotiation tactics, and personal development exercises. Every line was a step away from the fragile version of me who had cried over betrayal. Every paragraph reinforced the power I was quietly accumulating. My phone buzzed again. "Michael, can we meet?" I stared at the message. My first instinct was to reply, to confront, to cry. But instead, I smiled faintly and set it aside. Patience was part of the strategy. My silence, my apparent fragility, was far more effective than confrontation. A few days later, at a networking event, I presented a project idea that surprised even my senior colleagues. Confident, precise, and articulate, I captivated the room. I could feel the energy shift. People listened, respected, and recognized my capability. Later, Laura called. "I heard about your presentation. Michael would never imagine you like that." I laughed softly. "Exactly. He still thinks I'm broken, fragile, dependent. The truth is the opposite. But he won't see it yet." "Good," she said. "Let him continue underestimating. Let him feel the small setbacks. Let the karma begin quietly." I nodded. Karma didn't need my hand. It was already weaving subtly, small consequences for the man who had believed deception and manipulation were acceptable. That night, I sat on my balcony staring at the city lights. I reflected on my journey, the heartbreak, the betrayal, the slow reconstruction of myself. I realized how much I had grown, silently, deliberately. I whispered to myself almost as a vow, "I am more than heartbreak. I am more than manipulation. I am stronger, smarter, and I will rise." My reflection in the glass showed a woman transformed. Not fully revealed yet, but the edges of resilience, strategy, and quiet power were unmistakable. I didn't need validation from anyone, not Michael, not friends, not strangers. My validation came from myself. In the following weeks, subtle signs of karma continued. Michael missed deadlines, mismanaged small investments, and seemed increasingly frazzled. His calls became desperate, his texts polite but tinged with worry. I didn't respond. I let him stumble quietly while I rose deliberately. Even his attempts to manipulate or guilt me failed. Each time he tried, I smiled softly, appearing fragile, compliant, vulnerable. But inside I was calculating, observing, and learning. Every small misstep of his was a silent victory. Every underestimation of me reinforced my confidence. One evening Lara and I sat in the cafe again. She leaned forward, eyes bright. "You've built momentum. You won't see it coming. The slow rise, it's perfect. He'll regret underestimating you, but it'll be too late to matter." I nodded, feeling a thrill. The power wasn't mine yet in full, but it was growing, quiet and unstoppable. I thought back to the ring tucked away in my drawer. I didn't touch it. I didn't need to. Its presence reminded me of the catalyst, the moment I had chosen myself over heartbreak, and it symbolized the quiet empowerment I was now cultivating. I was no longer fragile. No longer dependent. No longer manipulated. I was silent, strategic, and growing, while Michael floundered unknowingly in the wake of his own misjudgment. By the end of the month, I had mastered a delicate balance, appearing vulnerable while cultivating undeniable strength. I had allies, skills, and an unshakable inner confidence. I was preparing to step fully into the power I had been reclaiming quietly. And as I lay in bed that night, I realized something crucial. Karma doesn't need my hand. It follows truth naturally. And the man who had underestimated me would soon learn the cost of his misjudgment. I smiled faintly, a secret smile. Patience, observation, strategy, my silent rise was unstoppable. The storm hadn't ended. It had transformed. And when the time came, the world and Michael would see the woman I had rebuilt from the wreckage of betrayal. I had learned the power of silence, the strength in waiting, the subtle art of letting others underestimate me. But today I decided it was time for a small, calculated action, a nudge that would shift the balance quietly but unmistakably. It started at a charity gala. Michael, of course, was there, charming as always, moving through the crowd with ease. I had watched him over months, seen how he underestimated me, assumed my retreat was weakness. He had no idea I was now more deliberate, more observant, more formidable. Lara whispered as we entered. "Remember, subtle. Come. Let your presence do the work." I nodded, keeping my head low, smile soft. Every gesture was unassuming. Every glance seemingly innocent. But my mind was alert, cataloging people, alliances, and opportunities. I noticed Jonathan, a key investor in Michael's ventures, speaking loudly about upcoming deals. Michael was nearby, laughing, oblivious. I approached casually, letting my charm appear effortless, my demeanor gentle. "Jonathan, it's been a while," I said softly, letting my tone convey respect and warmth. Jonathan turned, smiling. "Indeed it has. How are things?" "Very well, thank you," I replied. "I've been reflecting on connections and trust in business recently. It's fascinating how sometimes appearances don't reflect reality, isn't it?" Jonathan raised an eyebrow, intrigued. "I suppose. What do you mean?" I smiled faintly, calm, humble. "I've observed situations where people project one image, but their actions tell a different story. It can be revealing if you know what to look for." Jonathan's eyes narrowed slightly. "Revealing? In what sense?" I tilted my head, letting curiosity build. "Sometimes those we trust the most can be less honest than they seem. You have to pay attention to subtle cues, relationships, actions that contradict words. It can change your decisions significantly." Jonathan leaned in, interested. "Are you speaking hypothetically?" I shook my head slowly. "Not entirely. I've seen examples where careful observation revealed truths others ignored. Small discrepancies, small manipulations. It can have big consequences if ignored." He considered this, frowning. "Interesting. Do you have someone in mind?" I smiled softly, letting my words hint but not accuse. It's more about awareness than accusation. But when you're close to someone who manipulates appearances, you notice patterns. And patterns rarely lie. Jonathan's expression shifted slightly. Concern? Realization? I couldn't tell, and I didn't need to. The seed was planted. He would think, observe, maybe even question Michael quietly, without ever needing me to speak Michael's name aloud. That was the beauty of subtlety. Across the room, I glimpsed Michael noticing our interaction. His smile faltered slightly, though he tried to mask it. I felt a small thrill. He couldn't guess my strategy. He didn't know the quiet power I wielded. Laura leaned close. You've got him thinking without saying a word. That's perfect. I nodded, eyes calm, voice soft. Grace and patience. That's all I need right now. The evening continued. Michael tried to engage me, his usual charm cloaked in familiarity. Are you enjoying the gala? He asked, stepping beside me. I smiled faintly, demure. Yes, very much. The organization's work is admirable. He leaned closer, lowering his voice. I missed you. You've been distant. I've been busy with projects, I said casually, sipping my champagne. It's good to focus on personal growth sometimes. He frowned, a flicker of unease passing across his face. He didn't understand that growth was exactly what I had been cultivating quietly without his knowledge. I didn't realize, he began, voice careful. Busy is good, I interrupted softly. It keeps perspective. I excused myself, moving to a quieter area of the gala. Laura followed, whispering, You handled that perfectly. He can't read you. He has no idea what you're capable of now. I want him to underestimate me, I said quietly. Complacency is dangerous for people like him. Let him think I'm fragile. Let him misjudge. Exactly, she agreed. Then the first signs of karma start appearing naturally. You don't act directly. You let the world reveal his missteps. And they did quietly. Within days, Jonathan began subtly questioning Michael's recent business choices. Conversations were cautious, but the weight of doubt grew. Small, minor deals faltered. Michael missed calls. He grew anxious, unaware that the whispers of observation weren't from a competitor, but from someone he trusted, guided by my quiet intervention. Meanwhile, rival characters in my circle tried to manipulate me. A colleague, Nina, attempted to undermine my credibility in a meeting, spreading rumors of my supposed fragility. I smiled softly during her speech, calm, composed. Thank you for your perspective, I said politely. It's always helpful to have multiple viewpoints. The room shifted subtly. My colleagues recognized my confidence, my composure. Nina faltered under their scrutiny, realizing that her attempt to manipulate would backfire. After the meeting, Laura whispered, You handled her perfectly. Calm, collected, unshakable. That's power. I nodded, feeling the truth of it. My strength wasn't loud. It was quiet, strategic, deliberate. It allowed me to observe, act, and influence outcomes without confrontation. Meanwhile, Michael's presence became more tentative. He tried to engage me socially, professionally, personally, but every attempt met calm composure, polite detachment, and a subtle air of confidence he couldn't penetrate. He was beginning to sense the shift, though he didn't know its origin. I spent nights reflecting, reviewing interactions, and planning quietly. I kept the ring tucked away, untouched, a symbol of past betrayal and the quiet catalyst of my transformation. Small actions have large consequences, I murmured to myself, recalling Mrs. Khaled's lessons. Subtlety is the key. Patience is my strength. Karma doesn't need my hand, it follows truth naturally. The first signs of reversal in our relationship began to emerge. Michael's charm felt strained. His laughter no longer masked insecurity. His casual attempts at control were met with calm resilience. At a small dinner event, he approached me again, a forced smile on his face. You're very composed tonight, he said carefully. I smiled softly, serene. Thank you. I believe composure is important, especially in challenging circumstances. He glanced around nervously. I didn't mean to cause any discomfort. You didn't, I said softly. But I've learned that perception and reality often differ. I choose to act with integrity, quietly, regardless of what others assume. His brow furrowed slightly, confusion flickering across his features. He couldn't place the source of my calm strength, and that unsettled him. Later, I spoke with Laura in private. He doesn't understand, I said quietly. He doesn't see the changes. He doesn't realize how much I've grown. That's perfect, she said. Keep it quiet. Let him stumble while your confidence becomes undeniable. The slow reversal is more satisfying than any direct confrontation. I nodded. The first steps of karma were in motion. My betrayal had sparked my rise, and now, without malice or aggression, subtle consequences were aligning around Michael. He didn't know the source of his unease. He didn't see the quiet strength I wielded. And that was exactly how it should be. As the gala ended, I walked outside, cool air brushing my face. The city lights shimmered. I realized I wasn't just surviving anymore. I was influencing, directing, rising, strategically, silently, deliberately. Karma didn't need my hand. It followed truth naturally, and the world was beginning to tilt subtly in my favor. I held my head high, knowing the storm hadn't ended, but the winds had changed direction. And somewhere inside I smiled faintly, savoring the quiet shift of power. The gala hall shimmered with chandeliers and laughter. Guests in sparkling gowns and tailored suits moved gracefully, champagne glasses in hand, conversations floating like music across the room. I stepped in quietly, letting the ambient noise wash over me, letting it conceal the storm I carried inside. Lara whispered as we entered, "Remember calm? Elegance. They'll notice everything without you having to speak." I nodded, adjusting the hem of my dress. It was simple, understated, yet tailored perfectly. My hair fell in soft waves, my posture upright and confident. To everyone else I appeared as the same woman, polite, composed, unassuming. But beneath that facade, power thrummed through my veins, quiet, deliberate, unstoppable. "Good evening," a familiar voice said. I turned to see Mr. Anwar, smiling kindly. "Good evening," I replied. "It's lovely to see you." "You've changed," he observed, eyes sharp. "There's confidence in your presence." I smiled faintly. "Thank you. I've learned a few things about focus and perseverance." He nodded, approving. "And they suit you well. Keep cultivating them." I drifted through the room, exchanging polite greetings, soft smiles, and careful nods. Each interaction was deliberate, every glance measured. Whispers floated around me. "Have you seen how she's changed? She carries herself differently. She's glowing." I felt a thrill, subtle but satisfying. This was my transformation in motion, not loud, not aggressive, but undeniable. People noticed. Allies observed. Rivals whispered. From across the room I saw him, Michael. He hadn't expected me here, had assumed I would avoid social gatherings, that I would be crushed, fragile, broken. But here I was, calm, elegant, composed, and most importantly aware. He noticed the shift immediately. I could see it in the brief furrow of his brow, the slight tightening of his jaw. He wasn't sure what had changed, only that he was unprepared. A colleague approached me. "It's been a while. You look amazing. Confident." I smiled softly, lowering my eyes slightly. "Thank you. I've been focusing on growth, personally and professionally." She nodded. "It shows. Everyone's talking about it." I allowed the praise to wash over me quietly, letting it reinforce my poise. But I maintained the facade, soft-spoken, polite, unassuming. Michael needed to believe I was the same woman he thought he had broken. He moved closer, voice low, almost hesitant. "I didn't expect this." I looked at him, eyes calm. "Expect what?" "Confidence," he admitted, almost reluctantly. "Poise. You carry yourself differently." I tilted my head slightly, smiling faintly. "Perhaps I've learned to carry myself with care. To focus on what matters. It's liberating." He swallowed, clearly unsettled. The jealousy and regret were subtle but present. He realized that he had underestimated me, and it was unnerving. I drifted to another group, engaging in light conversation, sharing insights casually about projects, ideas, and plans. I laughed softly at a colleague's anecdote, not loudly, not to draw attention, but enough to show ease and presence. Michael's gaze followed me, lingering a moment too long. Laura leaned close. "He notices," she whispered. "You're creating tension without saying a word." "Perfect." I nodded, keeping my composure. "It's subtle. That's the point." Later, a rival, Vanessa, attempted to corner me in a quieter hallway. Her smile was sharp, calculating. "You've changed," she said, voice low. "But not everyone likes change. Especially when it's sudden." I smiled faintly, keeping my tone polite. Change can be uncomfortable for some. But it's inevitable for those who choose growth. Her eyes narrowed and she stepped back, realizing her attempt to intimidate would not succeed. My calm, deliberate poise made her miscalculation apparent. "You handle yourself well," she muttered, almost begrudgingly, before walking away. I let her go, returning to the main hall, heart steady, mind clear. Every interaction, every word, every smile reinforced my transformation. I didn't need confrontation to demonstrate power. Subtlety was far more effective. Michael moved toward me again, more cautiously this time. I didn't expect to see you here looking so composed." I smiled faintly, letting innocence mask my growing strength. I enjoy seeing familiar faces. Social gatherings can be enlightening. He hesitated. I should have, maybe we. I interrupted softly. Michael, I believe it's best to focus on the present. The past teaches, but it doesn't define us, does it? He faltered, clearly unsure how to respond. His usual charm and confidence were diminished, replaced by subtle uncertainty. I allowed it. Every pause, every falter in him, was evidence of my quiet empowerment. Later, as I sipped my champagne, a colleague approached. People are noticing your transformation. It's inspiring. I smiled, soft but firm. Thank you. I've learned the value of patience, observation, and deliberate action. Strength doesn't always have to be loud. She nodded, impressed. It's remarkable. Even Michael seems different around you. I let the words linger, careful not to react overtly. That was intentional. Let him see what he had missed. Let him feel the quiet power he had ignored. As the evening drew to a close, I excused myself, retreating to a quieter area outside. The cool air brushed my face and I allowed myself a small, private smile. The transformation wasn't complete, not fully visible yet, but the first shifts were undeniable. Laura joined me, leaning against the railing. You did well tonight. Elegance, grace, strength, all in one. And he noticed. He's feeling it. You can see it, can't you? I nodded, watching him across the courtyard. He lingered in the background, eyes scanning, unsure, hesitant. Regret and jealousy flickered across his face, subtle but unmistakable. Yes, I said softly. He notices, but he doesn't know why. He doesn't understand the quiet power that has been building beneath the surface. Laura smiled faintly. Exactly. And that's the beauty. Your strength doesn't need to be loud. It just exists. And when he finally realizes it, he won't know what hit him. I took a deep breath, feeling the full weight of the moment. The social gathering was more than a simple event. It was a stage. And I had performed perfectly, soft, elegant, poised, yet undeniably transformed. Michael approached again, hesitating at the edge of the courtyard. His voice was careful, almost quiet. You've changed. I don't understand. I smiled faintly, letting the innocence mask the power I now wielded. Change is inevitable, Michael. Sometimes it's quiet. Sometimes it's subtle. But it's always real. He nodded slowly, eyes darkening with something between regret and envy. I could feel it, his awareness of my rise, his realization that he had underestimated me. I let him stew. I didn't respond further. I didn't need to. My presence alone, calm and deliberate, was enough. As the night ended, I walked home with Laura, the city lights sparkling around us. The first stage of reversal has begun, she said softly. He's realizing he misjudged you. The emotional shift is happening. And soon. I smiled, thinking of the path I had chosen. Patience. Observation. Strategic empowerment. Karma in motion without my direct hand, but guided by my quiet strength. Soon, I repeated, softly but firmly. The shift will be undeniable. And I'll be ready when it happens. I slipped the engagement ring into my drawer that night, untouched. It had lost its power to hurt me, replaced by a symbol of transformation. A reminder that subtle strength and deliberate patience could turn betrayal into empowerment. The storm within me had not ended, but now it had direction. And the winds of change were unmistakable. I was no longer fragile, no longer naive, no longer defined by someone else's manipulation. I had transformed, hidden, quiet, and unstoppable. And Michael would see it soon enough. The room fell silent before I even entered. I could feel the weight of every gaze, the subtle hum of anticipation. It wasn't planned, at least not openly, but the timing felt right. Michael had cornered me at the charity auction, expecting compliance, weakness, the shattered woman he thought I still was. He looked up as I approached, brow furrowed. We need to talk, he said, voice low but sharp. I paused, eyes calm, a faint smile touching my lips. We do, I said softly, deliberately. The crowd around us seemed to sense tension, inching closer like moths to a flame. I didn't step back. I didn't falter. I stood tall, posture impeccable, poise undeniable. You look different, he said almost nervously. I didn't expect. I know exactly what you didn't expect, I interrupted, voice clear. You didn't expect me to survive your deception. You didn't expect me to rise quietly, deliberately, and without your validation. He swallowed, eyes darting to the gathering crowd. I thought. You thought testing me would prove my loyalty, I said, voice steady. But it only revealed your arrogance. His jaw tightened. I raised a hand, cutting him off. Let me finish. I need you to understand, Michael. Not for revenge, but so you see the consequences of manipulation clearly. He nodded stiffly, a flicker of apprehension in his eyes. You underestimated me, I said, letting my words linger. You believed my tears, my quiet retreat were signs of weakness. You believed I would crumble. That I would forgive without thought, without reflection. You were wrong. A murmur ran through the crowd. Friends, colleagues, rivals, everyone sensed the gravity of the moment. I won't lie, I continued, my voice stronger, unwavering. It hurt. It humiliated me. Your test of love was nothing but manipulation, a way to control me under the guise of loyalty. I felt betrayal, not just of the promises we made, but of the person I trusted you to be. Michael's lips parted, but no words came. His eyes betrayed something deeper: regret, confusion, fear. I chose silence for months, I said, letting my voice calm slightly as though speaking to myself. I chose patience. I chose to rebuild myself, to rise above the anger and the humiliation. And I did. Quietly. Deliberately. Every decision, every step has been mine. His hands clenched, betraying his inner turmoil. I didn't mean for... I know what you meant, Michael, I said softly. But intention isn't the same as impact. You caused pain. You tested my heart as if it were a game. And for that, you should feel the weight of understanding what that means. The crowd was captivated. Colleagues shifted, whispering quietly. Rivals, who had once tried to manipulate or undermine me, watched in awe as I held the space. The room didn't just see a woman confronting a man. They witnessed the quiet rise of strength, poise, and strategic power. I've learned a lot in these months, I continued, gaze fixed on him. I've learned that independence is the truest form of power. I've learned that patience is stronger than reaction. And I've learned that those who betray trust rarely anticipate the consequences of underestimating someone. Michael's lips quivered slightly. I didn't realize. I thought you thought wrong, I said calmly. I've grown beyond the expectations you had for me. And the woman you see now, the woman standing before you, is not fragile, not naive, not broken. She is deliberate, strong, and entirely in control of her own life. A few people in the crowd whispered among themselves. I could feel their astonishment, the silent recognition of my transformation. Allies nodded, slightly impressed. Rivals' expressions faltered. Michael's voice broke the silence, soft but heavy. I didn't mean to hurt you. I thought I was testing loyalty. I see now that testing loyalty isn't love, I said firmly. It's manipulation. And love, real love, doesn't need tests. It needs trust, honesty, and respect. He swallowed, visibly shaken. I realize that now. I let him struggle, observing quietly. There was no need to attack, no need to humiliate. The truth of my composure, my elegance, my clarity was far more powerful than words alone. I've built myself while you assumed I was lost, I said softly, voice almost gentle. I've built independence, skills, confidence, and strength. I've chosen myself when you chose to deceive. And that choice defines me more than any of your wealth, charm, or manipulation ever could. Michael's shoulders slumped slightly. His mask of control had cracked, revealing the vulnerability he rarely allowed anyone to see. I didn't realize, he admitted quietly, almost to himself. I should have. You should have trusted me, I said, voice steady, calm. But that choice was yours. And now, we see the consequences of your underestimation. Whispers spread further through the room. The crowd was captivated by the unfolding scene, a confrontation that wasn't angry, wasn't explosive, but was devastating in its clarity. The reversal of power was subtle but undeniable. Lara approached, standing beside me silently, a reassuring presence. Her eyes gleamed with pride. I didn't need her voice, my own presence spoke volumes. A rival colleague, Vanessa, who had once tried to undermine me, watched in silence, a mixture of awe and begrudging respect in her expression. Even she recognized the gravity of the moment. Michael's lips quivered again. I see now. I see what I did. I held up a hand, signaling calm. It's not about punishment, I said softly. It's about understanding. And perhaps, learning. You may regret the choices you made, the games you played, but the lessons, those are yours to carry. His eyes met mine, and for a moment, I saw raw human vulnerability, a crack in his armor. He realized he had misjudged, underestimated, and manipulated someone who had far more strength than he imagined. The crowd shifted, sensing the emotional weight. Friends murmured quietly, some nodding in approval, some in admiration. Rivals shifted uneasily, understanding that their own calculations had failed to anticipate my growth. I smiled faintly, serene, composed. "I hope you remember this moment," I said softly. "Not as a defeat but as a lesson. Power isn't always loud. Strength isn't always visible. And betrayal never goes unnoticed." Michael's shoulders slumped further. His voice was low, almost broken. I understand. Truly. I didn't need to say more. My composure, my clarity, and the subtle elegance of my confrontation had spoken louder than any words could. The reversal of power was clear, undeniable, public. I glanced briefly at Lara, who gave me a subtle nod. She understood, the strategy had worked perfectly. My rise was no longer hidden. My transformation was visible, undeniable, and respected. Michael stepped back slightly, shame and regret mingling with awe. For the first time he saw me as I truly was, not the fragile, compliant woman he thought he could control, but a deliberate, strong, confident force. I turned slightly, allowing the crowd to see my calm dignity, and for a fleeting moment, I saw whispers of admiration, respect, and even envy. Allies nodded subtly, understanding the subtle yet undeniable shift. Rivals faltered, realizing the game had changed and I had already won. The confrontation wasn't explosive. There were no raised voices, no dramatic accusations. But the effect, emotional, social, and strategic, was devastatingly complete. As I walked away from Michael, leaving the crowd's hushed energy behind, I felt a quiet thrill. The confrontation had been more than a release of emotion. It had been the public acknowledgement of my power, my growth, and my deliberate rise from betrayal. Lara caught up beside me. "You did it," she whispered. Composed, calm, undeniable. "He can't deny it and everyone else sees it too." I nodded, feeling the weight of the moment settle. "It's not over yet," I said quietly. "But the foundation has shifted. The rules have changed." We left the event, the cool night air brushing against my face. For the first time in months, I felt the storm inside me settle into a calm, powerful current. I had faced betrayal, rebuilt myself quietly, and now, publicly, demonstrated the depth of my strength. And Michael, he had begun to see the consequences of underestimating me. The confrontation was over, but the reverberations would last far longer. The room was quiet, the hum of distant traffic outside my apartment barely reaching us. Michael stood in front of me, his usual charm gone, replaced by something heavier, humility, vulnerability, regret. I studied him, silent, waiting for the words I wasn't sure I wanted to hear. I owe you an apology," he said finally, voice low, careful. "I manipulated you. I tested you. I thought I was being clever, but I see now how cruel I was. I hurt you and I can't take it back." I didn't speak immediately. I let him see me, calm, composed, the woman he had underestimated for months. His eyes flicked to the engagement ring I wore still on my dresser, not on my finger. It symbolized everything he thought he could control, and couldn't. "I don't know if an apology is enough," I said quietly. "It's not just words, Michael. It's trust, loyalty, respect, all of which were broken." He swallowed, shame shadowing his face. "I know. And I don't expect forgiveness. Not yet. Not without proof that I deserve it. But I need you to know. I regret it. Truly." The sincerity in his voice was unexpected. Raw. Painful. And it made my chest ache in ways I hadn't anticipated. Anger, yes. Disappointment, certainly. But something else lingered, old attachments, memories of love and warmth that still hadn't faded. I started, then stopped. My mind raced. Could I believe him? Could I allow myself to feel anything but resentment? "I've hurt you," he continued, stepping closer. "And for months I've watched you rise above it all. You've grown in ways I never imagined. I envy your strength. I wish I had been better, stronger, honest." I felt my heart tighten. His words struck chords I wasn't ready to expose. Part of me wanted to reach out, to forgive, to explain that what he did didn't define me, but another part, the stronger, sharper part, reminded me that forgiveness wasn't mandatory. Not for him. Not yet. "You make it sound simple," I said finally, voice calm but measured. "You hurt me and now you regret it. But life isn't a neat equation, Michael. Actions have consequences. Some visible, some hidden, but they exist. Always." He nodded, eyes darkening with awareness. "I know. I feel them every day. And I hate myself for it. I hate that I underestimated you. I can't undo it. I looked at him, really looked, seeing the man beneath the wealth, the charm, the manipulations, the man capable of regret, of vulnerability. Part of me softened, just slightly, but I didn't allow it to weaken me. You think regret is enough? I asked softly. You think feeling guilty makes it right? He shook his head. No. I know it doesn't, but I hope you can see that I am learning. I am changing. I breathed slowly, steadying myself. My thoughts were a storm. Trust, betrayal, love, anger, empowerment. Could I forgive? Should I? Or was the real power in rising above him completely, letting him witness my strength without needing my mercy? I've learned a lot myself, I said, voice quiet but firm. I've learned that forgiveness isn't a gift you give someone. It's a choice you make for yourself. And I've chosen to rise, to focus on myself, to let your regret exist, without letting it pull me back into your orbit. He flinched slightly, the truth of my words settling in. So, you won't forgive me? I don't know yet, I admitted. I need time, and honesty, and boundaries. What I won't do is let your actions define me anymore. That's my choice. Michael nodded slowly, eyes heavy. I understand. I'll wait. I'll prove myself worthy, somehow. I just needed you to know how truly sorry I am. I hear you, I said softly, carefully maintaining the calm composure that had become my shield. And that's the first step. Recognition. Awareness. But remorse alone doesn't undo the past. I'm learning to let it exist, to acknowledge it, and to protect myself from being hurt again. His shoulders slumped, but he didn't turn away. He stayed there, vulnerable, human. And I realized, this was the first time in months he had truly seen me. Not as someone to manipulate, not as someone to test, but as a woman who had endured, grown, and emerged strong. I never realized, he said finally. Not fully. How much you endured. How much you've become, everything I underestimated. I let that sit, letting the weight of my journey, my transformation, hang in the air between us. I am everything I choose to be, I said softly. Not because of you. Not because of your mistakes. But despite them. He swallowed, eyes flicking away. I wish I had seen it sooner. I exhaled slowly, letting the tension ease slightly. My internal struggle wasn't over. Forgiveness wasn't a decision I needed to make for him. My empowerment, my choice was the real reward. He could acknowledge his regret all he wanted, but it would not dictate my path. Maybe, I said finally, voice calm. But seeing it now, maybe it's enough for you to change. To be better. To understand the weight of your actions. And maybe, someday that will matter to you more than apologies. He nodded, a quiet, sincere acknowledgement. It does. Every day. I studied him for a long moment, measuring, evaluating. Anger had softened slightly, replaced with clarity. Compassion, yes, but tempered with strength. I would not let love blind me. I would not let nostalgia trap me in weakness. I need time, I said again. And space. And your honesty, if anything, is to continue at all. But know this, my life is mine. My growth is mine. And my strength is mine to wield. Michael's lips pressed together. I understand. Truly. And I am sorry for all of it. I nodded, holding his gaze steadily. Good. Let that be the start, not the end. The rest is up to me. He looked away, shame and understanding mingling. I felt no need to soften further. My boundaries, my choices, my power, all of it was mine. I had survived betrayal, manipulation, and doubt. And now, witnessing his genuine regret, I realized something profound. Empowerment was stronger than revenge, stronger than anger, and infinitely more satisfying than broken promises. I will rise, I murmured to myself, almost inaudible, but he heard it anyway. With or without you. The room felt lighter, calmer. The tension had not disappeared, but it had shifted. The emotional stakes had peaked, not through confrontation or punishment, but through clarity, composure, and the undeniable presence of my strength. Michael's presence remained quiet, reflective. He didn't speak further. He simply watched, perhaps seeing for the first time the consequences of his actions in the calm, deliberate woman standing before him. I turned away, letting the moment linger in the quiet between us. Forgiveness was not immediate. Love was not demanded. And power, true power, was the ability to choose my path, define my boundaries, and rise above the pain. Lara stepped beside me, offering a gentle smile. You did it. Composed. Strong. Clear. He can't touch that. I nodded, feeling the full weight of the moment. Michael's regret was real, yes. But it was no longer mine to carry. My choices, my strength, my rise, these were mine alone. And in that knowledge I felt a quiet, profound satisfaction. The night stretched on, the city lights glimmering beyond the windows. I knew the story wasn't fully over. Karma, growth, and consequences would continue their course. But for the first time I felt complete clarity. I had survived. I had transformed. And now, I had the power to decide what came next. The storm of betrayal had passed. What remained was the calm of self-determination, tempered with wisdom, and fueled by the understanding that I was no longer defined by anyone else's choices. And for Michael, perhaps that was the hardest lesson of all. The morning sun filtered through the curtains, painting soft streaks across my bedroom. I sat on the edge of the bed, the engagement ring resting in my hand. Cold metal, a symbol of betrayal, of tests, of lessons learned. It no longer carried love, it carried a story of growth, patience, and self-worth. I inhaled deeply. Today I had to decide. Walk away. Or give him a second chance. Two paths stretched before me, each carrying weight and consequence. Lara leaned against the doorframe, her expression gentle but firm. Whatever you choose, make it for you. Not for him. Not for anyone else. I nodded. I know. But knowing and feeling are different. She smiled faintly. That's why we test ourselves. Not him, you. I turned the ring over in my hand. Months of pain, betrayal, and quiet transformation flashed in my mind. The sleepless nights, the tears, the rebuilding. Every choice I had made, every skill I had learned, every boundary I had enforced, they had all led to this moment. He waited in the living room, nervously shifting from foot to foot. Michael. The man who had hurt me, manipulated me, and underestimated me at every turn. And yet, beneath that regret, beneath that hesitance, he had shown vulnerability. Genuine remorse. He looked up as I entered the room. Morning, he said softly, voice careful. Morning, I replied, steady. He cleared his throat. I wanted to say again. I'm sorry. Not just words, I mean it. I've thought about everything, how I hurt you, how I underestimated you. And I hope there's a way to make it right. I studied him silently. The remorse in his eyes was undeniable. But my focus wasn't on him anymore, it was on me. On my growth, my strength, my values. I've thought a lot too, I said finally. About what I want, about who I am, and about what I deserve. He nodded, hopeful yet cautious. I understand. I just want a chance to prove myself. I took a deep breath. Do you know what it means to be truly trusted? To be seen not as someone to test, but as a person worthy of honesty and respect. Yes, he admitted quietly. I do now. But knowing and living are different, I said softly. You may regret your actions. You may feel guilt. But trust has to be rebuilt from scratch. And I'm not sure you can rebuild it just by apologizing. He looked down, a quiet acknowledgement of his failings. I understand. I'll do whatever it takes. I'll wait. I'll earn it. I let the silence stretch, letting my mind weigh the possibilities. The person I had become was not the one who had cried at betrayal, the one who had sought validation or acceptance. I was deliberate, strong, and independent. I could forgive, yes, but forgiveness didn't mean I needed him back in my life. I've grown, I said, voice firm. I've learned to rely on myself, to respect my boundaries, to demand honesty and integrity. And anyone I allow into my life now must respect that. He looked up at me, eyes wide. I do. I swear I do. I let the words hang in the air. Actions, not promises, were what mattered. And I had learned to read the difference. You've hurt me, I continued, softening slightly but keeping strength. And even if I consider forgiveness, it doesn't erase the past. It doesn't erase the manipulation, the games, the humiliation. You underestimated me. You almost broke me. He flinched at that word, almost a whisper. I know. And I will regret that for the rest of my life. I nodded, acknowledging the weight of his regret. Regret is yours to carry. But my life, my choices, they're mine. And right now, I have to decide what's best for me. I turned away briefly, letting the sunlight warm my face. My heart beat steadily, no longer a captive to fear or anger. This was about my clarity, my empowerment. I've realized something, I said, turning back to him. Love isn't about testing. It's about respect, trust, and honesty. You may feel remorse, but remorse doesn't equal readiness for love. He swallowed, understanding flashing across his face. I get that. I do. And I want to be ready. I want to be better. For you. For us. I considered it the emotional tug between old affection and newfound strength. Part of me remembered the warmth, the laughter, the moments before betrayal. But the stronger part, the wiser, empowered part, reminded me that I didn't need him to validate my life or my worth. I've also learned, I said slowly, carefully, that true empowerment comes from choice. From knowing I can walk away. From knowing I don't need someone else's approval to feel complete. His lips pressed together, silent, heavy with understanding. So, I said, looking him in the eyes, I have a choice. One that will define how I move forward. I can forgive, yes, but forgiveness doesn't mean surrendering my independence. It doesn't mean I'm willing to accept betrayal again. And if I give you a chance, it must be on equal footing. Otherwise, I walk. He nodded slowly. I understand. Completely. I don't expect anything without proving myself. I paused, letting my words sink in. The decision wasn't about punishment or revenge. It was about my values, my growth, my self-respect. I've chosen, I said finally, voice steady. I will not let my life be dictated by fear, by regret, or by manipulation. I've risen above the pain. And my choice now must honor that rise. He tilted his head, hopeful, asking without words. I will forgive you, I said softly, but that forgiveness comes with boundaries, clarity, and expectations. You will not have my trust again automatically. It will be earned. Every day, through honesty, through respect, through your actions. His eyes widened slightly, relief mixed with awe. I will. I swear I will. I'll prove myself every day. I'll earn it. I nodded. Good. Then we begin from here, not from where we left off, not from what was broken, but from what can be rebuilt, if it's done right. He reached out tentatively, almost shyly. I didn't move immediately. This wasn't a moment for rush or instinct. It was deliberate. Empowered. I want you to understand something, I said, voice steady. This isn't about reliving the past. It's about building a future where I am respected, loved, and honored. If you fail, I will walk. And this time, there's no turning back. He nodded solemnly. I understand. And I accept it. I won't fail. I let a small, faint smile cross my lips. Then we move forward cautiously. And every day you will remind me through action, not words, that you deserve this second chance. The engagement ring rested in my hand. I slid it onto my finger, not as a surrender but as a symbol of clarity. A reminder that forgiveness could coexist with self-respect. That empowerment didn't mean bitterness but deliberate choice. That love could exist but only with boundaries, honesty, and mutual respect. Michael watched silently, a mixture of awe, respect, and renewed hope on his face. He had learned the hard way. He had experienced the weight of his own actions. And now, if he wanted redemption, he would have to earn it. I breathed deeply, letting the morning sunlight wash over me. The storm of betrayal, anger, doubt, and growth had reached its peak. Now came the clarity, the calm, and the deliberate choice. Are you ready? I asked finally, voice soft but firm. He nodded, steady this time. Yes, for as long as it takes. I'll earn your trust, your respect, your forgiveness. I smiled faintly, the first real sense of closure washing over me. Not complete closure, not yet, but the clarity of choice, the empowerment of rising above betrayal, and the knowledge that I was the author of my life, that was enough. Yes, I said. We begin from here. And every step forward must honor that understanding. Michael's lips pressed together in quiet acknowledgement. No grand gestures, no dramatic promises, just the weight of responsibility, the recognition of past mistakes, and the silent vow to respect the woman I had become. I looked at him one last time, heart steady, mind clear. This was my final choice, not dictated by anger, not by fear, not by longing, but by clarity, self-respect, and empowerment. I had risen. I had chosen. And now, the future awaited. The conference hall buzzed with energy, filled with colleagues, friends, and mentors. I walked in confidently, head held high, heels clicking softly on the polished floor. Whispers followed me, soft admiration, some envy, some awe. This was a world I had once observed from the sidelines, feeling small, underestimated, and powerless. Now it felt like home. Lara caught up beside me, smiling. Look at you, she whispered. People notice strength. They respect it. I smiled faintly, feeling the truth of her words. Strength was different from the fragile version of me that Michael had once tried to manipulate. I had fought, I had grown, and now I commanded presence without demanding it. Michael was there too, standing off to the side, watching. His expression was a mixture of respect, regret, and cautious hope. He had apologized, proven himself slowly and respected boundaries, but this wasn't about him anymore, it was about me. "Good morning, everyone," I said as the event formally began. My voice was steady, confident, carrying through the hall. "I want to share my journey not just for myself, but for anyone who has felt underestimated, betrayed, or overlooked." A hush fell over the room. People leaned in, curious, attentive. I told my story carefully, weaving truth and empowerment together. I spoke of challenges, heartbreak, and betrayal, but I emphasized growth, choice, and self-determination. "Betrayal is painful," I said softly. "It can leave scars, but it also teaches clarity. It teaches resilience. And it can lead you to discover a strength you didn't know you had." Michael's eyes met mine. I could see pride there, tempered by the humility he had earned. But I didn't need his validation. My own recognition, the quiet acknowledgement that I had risen from heartbreak, manipulation, and doubt, was enough. After the talk, colleagues approached me. Some congratulated me. Others admitted they had underestimated me. I accepted their words with grace, letting the acknowledgement feel earned, not forced. "Your story is inspiring," a mentor said. "It's not just about surviving betrayal, it's about transforming it into empowerment." I nodded, grateful. "Thank you. That's exactly what it's meant to be." Even rivals approached tentatively. Vanessa, who had once tried to manipulate my reputation, offered a small smile. "You've changed, and not just in appearance. You've become someone people can't ignore." I inclined my head slightly, keeping my composure. "Strength isn't loud," I said softly. "It's deliberate, and visible only to those who pay attention." Later, I stepped onto the balcony overlooking the city lights. The world seemed quieter, calmer. My journey, from love and betrayal to empowerment and clarity, had come full circle. I allowed myself a moment to breathe, to feel the weight of what I had accomplished. Michael approached, gentle this time. "You were amazing," he said softly. I see you now. Truly." I turned to him, letting the cool night air wash over us. "I've always been here," I said. "But now, I am fully present, strong, in control, and free from the past that tried to define me." He nodded, quiet, reflective. "I'm proud of you. And I understand more now. About respect, trust, love. And how easy it is to lose it when you don't honor it." I studied him, seeing the lessons learned etched into his expression. But my focus remained on myself, my growth, and my choices. "You've changed too," I said softly. "But this isn't about us. It's about who I've become and what I'm willing to allow in my life." Michael nodded, silent but accepting. He understood, without me having to spell it out. Respect was a language we had both learned in very different ways. Later, as the evening progressed, I mingled with peers, mentors, and friends. Conversations flowed easily. I laughed, shared insights, and inspired. For the first time in years, I felt fully seen, not as a victim, not as a target, but as a woman of power, clarity, and emotional mastery. A young woman approached me hesitantly. "I just want to say, your story gave me courage. I've been struggling with betrayal and self-doubt, and hearing how you handled it, it's empowering." I smiled, warmth spreading through me. "Thank you. Remember, strength isn't about never feeling hurt. It's about what you do after that hurt. You define yourself, not anyone else's actions." Her eyes shone and she nodded. "I will try. Thank you." Moments like this reminded me why the journey mattered. It wasn't revenge. It wasn't humiliation. It was growth. It was empowerment. And it rippled outward, inspiring others to claim their own strength. As the evening wound down, Michael approached one last time. "I just want to say I'm proud of you. And I'm grateful for the lessons you've taught me. About respect, patience, and honesty." I nodded. "I'm glad you've learned. But remember, Michael, this is about my life, my choices. Not about absolving you or reliving the past. I've grown because I chose to, not because you deserved a second chance." He nodded, quietly accepting the boundary. "I understand. Truly." I glanced at the engagement ring on my hand. It was more than a symbol of past love, it was a reminder of my journey. The pain I endured, the strength I discovered, the empowerment I achieved. It was mine to wear, mine to honor. Lara caught my eye from across the room, giving a small, approving nod. We had both known this day would come, but seeing it unfold, witnessing my transformation recognized by peers and society, was deeply satisfying. "You've done it," she whispered when we stepped outside. "You've reclaimed yourself, your life, your power." I breathed deeply, feeling the cool night air settle into my skin. "Yes," I said softly. And it's just the beginning. The rest is mine to define. Michael lingered nearby, watching silently. There was no pressure, no expectation. He had witnessed the rise of a woman he had once tried to control. He understood his place now, not as a victor or a manipulator but as someone who could only respect my strength. "I'm happy for you," he said quietly. "Truly. You deserve everything you've earned." I smiled faintly, appreciating the words but keeping my focus on the larger picture. "Thank you. And remember, empowerment isn't about anyone else. It's about owning your life." The city stretched before us, lights flickering like stars. I felt a sense of closure, a balance between past and present. Betrayal had been met with justice, not through revenge but through my rise. Growth had been acknowledged, both by myself and by those around me. And love could exist or it could remain independent. That choice was mine. I slipped my hand from the railing, feeling the smooth metal of the ring against my finger. A symbol, yes, but more importantly, a reminder. Of lessons learned. Of strength claimed. Of a future defined not by anyone else but by me. Michael nodded again, silently acknowledging the transformation he had witnessed. And I felt no need to elaborate further. Words were no longer necessary. My life, my choices, and my empowerment spoke louder than any conversation could. As I walked down the streets, the city alive around me, I realized something profound. I had survived betrayal, heartbreak, and manipulation. I had risen above, not through anger, not through revenge, but through deliberate choice, self-respect, and emotional mastery. The whispers of admiration followed me, subtle but persistent. Some faces reflected awe, some envy, some inspiration. And it struck me that my story, my rise, would ripple outward, inspiring others to claim their own strength. I paused on the bridge overlooking the river, the water reflecting city lights like scattered jewels. The past was behind me. The lessons were etched in my soul. The future was mine, undefined, open, and full of possibility. A quiet breeze brushed my face and I let it wash over me. Freedom. Empowerment. Recognition. Rebirth. Michael's presence lingered behind me, a silent acknowledgement of the path we had traveled, together and apart. And as I turned to leave, I knew the story wasn't just about him or the betrayal or the regret. It was about me. My rise. My transformation. My choice. And in that realization I felt complete. Whether love would find a place again or whether independence would reign supreme, it no longer mattered. I had found myself. And that was enough. The night embraced me, full of possibility, acknowledgement, and quiet triumph. I was no longer the woman who had cried, doubted, or been deceived. I was reborn. Respected. Empowered. Recognized. And the world could see it. The morning sun poured through the window, spilling light across the pages of my journal. I sat cross-legged on the floor, pen in hand, staring at my own words. Each line was a reminder of how far I had come, the pain endured, the lessons learned, and the strength I had discovered within myself. Lara leaned against the doorframe, holding 2 cups of tea. "You've been quiet all morning," she observed, placing 1 cup beside me. "I'm thinking," I said softly, taking a sip. The warmth spread through me, grounding me. "About everything. The mistakes, the betrayal, the growth, and the choices I made." She sat beside me, tilting her head. And I realize," I said slowly, "that I'm not the same person who cried over Michael's deception. I'm stronger, wiser, more deliberate. I've learned to recognize manipulation, protect myself, and rise above pain." Lara smiled, a mix of pride and relief. "You've always had that strength. You just needed the storm to bring it out." I laughed softly, thinking back to the first months after discovering the truth. The sleepless nights, the emotional collapse, the quiet planning of my transformation. Every tear, every moment of doubt, had been a stepping stone to this version of me. "I never realized how much I underestimated myself," I said. "I thought strength was loud. That power was about control. But it's not. It's subtle. It's deliberate. It's choosing yourself every single day." Lara nodded. "And you chose well." I set down my pen and leaned back, eyes tracing the patterns of sunlight on the wall. I also think about relationships. Not just love, but every connection I've had. Betrayal taught me boundaries. Loyalty taught me patience. And respect taught me who I am. A soft knock on the doorframe made me look up. Michael stood there, hesitating, hands in his pockets. "May I come in?" he asked quietly. I studied him for a moment. The man who had caused so much pain now carried humility, awareness, and quiet respect. I nodded. "Yes, come in." He stepped inside cautiously, avoiding the sunlight that seemed to spotlight me. "I didn't want to intrude," he said, voice careful. I wanted to hear your reflections. To understand where you are now." I gestured to the seat across from me. "Sit. I'll share, but this isn't about absolving the past. It's about understanding it and moving forward." He nodded, settling into the chair. "I'm listening." I took a deep breath. The journey wasn't easy. I faced betrayal, manipulation, doubt, and humiliation. I questioned my worth, my instincts, and my ability to trust again. But I also discovered resilience, intelligence, patience, and emotional clarity. Every setback became a lesson. Every tear became a reminder that I could endure. He leaned forward slightly. "And Michael? Where does that fit into your reflections?" I met his eyes steadily. He taught me, without meaning to, the importance of self-respect, boundaries, and deliberate choice. His betrayal was painful, but it also catalyzed my transformation. And now, I understand that love, forgiveness, or reconciliation can only exist if I choose them, not because someone demands them or manipulates me into them. He nodded slowly, absorbing my words. "I understand, truly. I see now how much I underestimated you, and the consequences of my actions." I smiled faintly, not softening completely. "You've learned your lessons. But my reflections are not about you anymore. They're about me. About recognizing my worth, my power, and the life I want to live." He exhaled quietly. "And I respect that. I really do." I returned my gaze to the journal in my lap. I also realized that emotional intelligence is crucial. Not just for love, but for every interaction. Understanding others, yes, but first understanding yourself. Recognizing manipulation. Recognizing opportunities for growth. And knowing when to forgive, and when to walk away. Laura nodded from beside me. "You've become a teacher without even trying." I laughed softly. "Perhaps. But it's not about teaching others. It's about living deliberately. If my growth inspires others, that's a bonus. But the focus is always on me, my choices, my clarity, my empowerment." Michael's gaze softened. "You've changed so much. I wish I had seen it sooner." "You didn't," I said calmly. "And that's why the lessons were necessary. Pain teaches what comfort cannot. Betrayal teaches what trust cannot." He nodded silently. "And your independence, it's remarkable. I've seen it and it's inspiring." I set down my pen. Independence isn't just about standing alone. It's about knowing your worth, your limits, your strengths, and the boundaries you will not compromise. It's about resilience and the courage to define your own life. He remained quiet, listening, respectful. I appreciated that. His presence was no longer a threat or a reminder of past manipulation. It was simply a reflection of shared history and his earned humility. I stood, walking to the window, looking out at the city below. I've learned to embrace the future without fear. Betrayal cannot define me. Hurt cannot contain me. And regret, whether mine or others, does not dictate my path. I am rewriting my story, every day, with courage, wisdom, and self-love. Michael's voice broke the silence. "Do you see a future for us?" I turned slowly, meeting his gaze. "That depends on many things. Trust, honesty, respect. Actions, not words. But the larger truth is this: I am whole on my own. Any relationship, any love, any connection must honor that wholeness, not threaten it." He nodded, humbled. "I understand. And I accept that." I returned to my seat, picking up the pen. Reflection also reminds me that power is quiet. Influence is subtle. Strength isn't loud, it's deliberate, thoughtful, and consistent. People notice it, but it isn't displayed for approval. It's lived. Laura sipped her tea beside me. "And you've certainly lived it. Every step, every choice, it shows." I smiled softly. The final lesson is self-love. Not vanity. Not selfishness. But respect, care, and nurturing of my own mind, heart, and soul. Only then can I navigate relationships, choices, and challenges with clarity and purpose. Michael's eyes were steady, watching, learning. And that's the ultimate lesson. I hope I can continue to understand it, and honor it, if I remain in your life in any capacity. I considered the possibilities carefully. The past shaped me, but it does not control me. The present is my responsibility. The future is mine to define. Whether you are part of it is secondary. What matters is that I am ready for whatever comes next, with clarity, courage, and grace. He nodded slowly, quiet but accepting. "And I will respect that. Always." I closed the journal gently, feeling a deep sense of completion. Every word written, every thought reflected, every tear shed had led me here, to understanding, to strength, to empowerment. Lara, I said softly, standing, thank you. For support, guidance, and belief. She smiled warmly. You didn't need me, but you let me walk beside you. That's enough. I turned to Michael one last time. And you, remember, respect and honesty aren't optional. They are essential. And I will honor myself first, always. He nodded, silent, solemn, and understanding. The morning sun warmed my face, the city bustling below, full of possibility. I had survived betrayal, heartbreak, and manipulation. I had grown, risen, and embraced the power within me. I had reclaimed my life, my identity, and my strength. The reflections were clear now. Pain had been transformed into wisdom. Anger had been tempered into clarity. Regret had become a teacher, not a jailer. And love, whether renewed, delayed, or absent, was no longer a requirement for my fulfillment. I exhaled, feeling a sense of closure unlike any I had experienced before. Life could be rewritten. Pain could become power. Betrayal could become insight. And every choice I made from now on would reflect the courage, wisdom, and self-love I had fought to claim. Michael lingered respectfully, Lara smiled beside me, and the city continued its rhythm. But inside I felt a profound stillness, a quiet certainty. I had survived. I had risen. I had rewritten my story. And in that knowledge I was free.